I'd like to call the Proctor City Council meeting for Monday, April 4th, 2022 to order. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll perform a roll call at this time. Councilor Benson.
Present.
Councilor Reuter.
Present.
Councilor Johnson.
Present.
Councilor DeWall.
Present.
Mayor Ward is also present. Let the minutes reflect all others present. Attorney Bray, Administrator Rich, Megan Jordan, Chief Gatus. Looking for a motion to approve the City Council meeting minutes from Monday, March 21st, 2022.
So move.
Councilor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Reuter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda, but before doing so, I'd like to add 7A closed session for land negotiations. Looking for a motion to approve the agenda with that added change.
So moved.
Councilor DeWall made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Reuter. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Oppose? Motion passes. At this time, we'll take public comment and suggestions from anyone present or watching on TV. The public comment suggestion period of this meeting is when the City Council. No phone today, so just comments from people present, I guess. The public comment suggestion period of this meeting is when the City Council offers a time for everyone in attendance or watching from home to address the City Council. Once we move on from public comment suggestion period of the meeting, members of the public will no longer be allowed to address the council unless the mayor acknowledges you. As a general rule, the council will listen to all comments but will not comment on or respond to any comments made by speakers. The council will not engage in dialogue. However, any councilor can ask questions. If you'd like to address City Council during public comment period and suggestion period of the meeting, please come forward to the podium. Before you begin, please state your name and address for the minutes. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the City Council will be prohibited from using obscene, profane, or threatening language or boisterous conduct that disrupts the meeting or the security of the public. Is there anyone at this time that is interested in participating in the public comment and suggestion period of the meeting?
I have no voice. Kathy Hannon, resident of Proctor. In the last few weeks, there have been frequent mentions of the new salt shed facility. It's been in the paper. It was at the State of the City's address that our mayor mentioned it, and it's probably been on our agenda somewhere for 20 years or so now. So I'm sure everyone is very relieved to see that it's coming to be. I am here to say that this is just ancillary information, but very timely. The UN issued their updated climate change report just this afternoon, saying that if we don't reduce greenhouse gases by 50% by 2008, this planet will be on a course that is not survivable. It's no longer okay to just cut down on driving your car and do some small things. We have to do huge and impactful things. And it isn't up to Washington or to the government of any country, since it isn't only our country but the whole world, to do the right thing. It's up to every community to do their very best. I am suggesting for the salt shed and for any upcoming construction projects in Proctor that climate change should be actually part of our building code, and everything should have a component that addresses that. There should either be solar panels or a solar array. We should be able to capture rainwater. We should look at every individual project as if this is our contribution to combating climate change. So I am hoping that in every project, including this one coming up, we'll look at that as part of our responsibility to do the right thing in our own community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Does anyone have any questions or concerns regarding Kathy's comments? Councilor Benson?
Mr. Mayor, and
I have to agree, and I'd like to see it put on the agenda, and at least we could discuss it, get it to planning and zoning. There's going to be, I believe, major changes in the next 3-4 years. And we've always been just slightly behind the curve, and I think this is an opportunity at least to begin to take advantage in what I believe is going to be grant opportunities coming forward, especially for municipalities to embrace what our speaker has suggested. I mean, we had talked about rain gardens probably 25 years ago, and it got discounted quite quickly. So, you know, especially when we look at fines and fees and increases in our rates due to water runoff, even something as simple as a rain garden could help. So it should be seriously looked at.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Administrator Rich, is that something we can address here in the future?
We can add it as an agenda item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on from the comment suggestion period, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second, if we could take out 1A, please.
Okay. You heard the motion in the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Give me 1 second here. All right, that'll bring us to 1A, 2022 MnDOT construction announcements.
Oh,
Counselor?
I meant 1B. Sorry. I saw
We
A
need a
for,
new motion on that, or?
I saw the A for Arbor Day, and
We'll go back and make it.
Yeah,
Good
go
with
back
it.
and make the motion.
All right, so
It's
we're,
just an errata. Latin for you screwed up.
we got a motion on the
thank
floor.
Yeah.
I'll make that motion to amend the original motion to exclude 1A, but include 1B.
and I will second that.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That will bring us to 1B, Arbor Day. Counselor Benson.
Thank you, and I just wanted to highlight this, again, because it ties in with the whole rain gardens and solar, and the importance that trees have in our community. I know when we were looking at 6th Street, they were not included. I still struggle with that one. And I did want to mention that even with becoming a tree city, it took nearly 4 years for Proctor to warm up to that idea. No, we're 28 years. We started back in, 28 years ago. And Minneapolis is the oldest at 42 years. But again, it's something that we've done, and we've done well, and we try to get the youth involved in our Arbor Day celebrations, and I just am happy to see it on the agenda and have an opportunity to speak towards it. So thank you for continuing that fine tradition.
Thank you, Counselor Benson. Any other comments regarding 1B Arbor Day? Hearing none, you can move on to 4A. Clerk advises council capital bonding request. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. As I was submitting the bonding request for this current year, and we were rather late behind the ball in getting the requests in on time, I thought it might be prudent to put the bonding request for 2024 on the agenda as a kind of a working item for planning and keeping up with projects, because although the next bonding year isn't until 2024, that process starts as early as July of 2023, which we all know comes around very quickly. And it would be a good idea to start prioritizing and planning out some projects that we might want to include on the 2024, so we're not rushing even after the deadline or right before the deadline to get requests in.
Thank you. When we have ideas or suggestions, should we just email them to you and then it can be added to an agenda at a future date?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you're all in agreement that it should stay like as an agenda item so we can keep those projects on the forefront, you know, as they come up in discussions. Would be helpful to me.
I'm good.
And Mr. Mayor, just to add to that, sometimes not being in a bonding year, being outside the bonding year, those non-bonding years, sometimes offers cities a better opportunity to get funded, because now you're not competing with everybody else. And I believe we've had luck over the years on non-bonding years. So yes, we should start early, and I've already got a list started, so thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments regarding 4A capital bonding request?
Just,
Counselor DeWall?
that's going to fall under unfinished business then on the future agendas?
It's on there right now under 5D, capital budget request.
Yes, so that was an agenda item that was added some time ago. If you want to keep it there, or if you would like to, as is a continuous clerk advises council for more discussion, or do you?
I don't care which category it's in as long as it's there so that we're building the list with the ideas as they, you know, if Councilor Reuter has an idea and I don't touch base with them, I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say leave it under unfinished business, compile a list of ideas. As Councilor Benson stated, he already has some. And then when they're ready to be presented to council, we'll act on it at that time. Does that work for everybody? For you, Administrator Rich?
Yep, it's early planning and early cost estimates. All those are really crucial in being successful for bonding money.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4B, Second Street update. Administrator Rich.
So the Second Street Advisory Committee met on March 17th, and the scope of the discussion was to talk about the scope of the project now that we received news that we weren't successful in our Safe Routes to School funding application. And mainly what the committee looked at was their original recommendation was to have a sidewalk on one side of the street and a 10 or so foot multimodal trail on the other side of the street. After a lengthy discussion and a lot of good input and a lot of good input from the committee, the committee decided to move forward with their original plan regardless of Safe Routes to School funding, and we'll look for other funding. Really, replacing a paved trail with a sidewalk, the cost is pretty much the same. So really the question was, do we go down with one sidewalk or do we want pedestrian traffic on both sides? And the committee felt that on that particular street, pedestrian traffic was important. So if the cost difference of a trail versus concrete wasn't going to be the issue, then they are moving forward with SEH continuing to work on plans for that model. Some sidewalks around the school were removed because of the Safe Routes to School news, but we'll continue to have discussions with the school if they want those included back in the project. Assessment hearings on this project are expected to take place as early as May and June of this year. At that time, plans will be made available to the public, but of course, we'll make sure that council gets those plans before hearing dates, and so you can review what the committee is working on.
Thank you, Administrator Rich. I'd just like to add one thing regarding that Safe Routes to School grant, that there is another opportunity coming up with that grant, and we will be reapplying and hopefully get it here in the future to help that project move forward as was originally planned. So with that, does council have any questions or comments regarding the Second Street update?
Happy that it's going along with the original plan. I like the idea that there is that possibility that we could maybe resubmit with changes, that Safe Route to School grant, and expand on it. I was looking at other cities who receive safe school grants, and I was struggling that we didn't get it. I thought our project was a little more deserving, although I'm sure the other cities didn't think that way.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4C, sand salt facility update. Administrator Rich.
So the project will be placed out on bids in the very next few weeks. I will get final plans for you to review, council to review. They'll be made available in my office before we move forward with them. Again, all of the plans, all of the design was based on committee review and discussion and recommendation. We have the funding in place, the funding from the state, the $500,000 bonding grant has been secured. So it's moving forward, and I will let you know when the plans are made available.
Thank you. Any questions, Councilor Johnson?
Administrator Rich, since it was brought up by Kathy, and I appreciate that, is it possible for electricity down there being solar panels or anything? Is it too late for that?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not familiar with that process.
I'd like to chime in.
Go ahead.
Two things that's occurring with that where we're headed in a good direction. One, we're moving the whole facility away from our designated trout stream. Second, if you remember when council approved this is for the smaller portion. I think it would be more advantageous to look at that when we look at the bigger phase 3.
Okay,
Would be a good timing for that.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Administrator Rich, did you have more to add to that?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding the salt sand? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4D, 2021 audit update.
Very quickly, the 2021 audit just started today. The auditors have been and will be in the office for the next week.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the audit taking place? Councilor Benson.
That's all in-house? No remote audits this year?
Nope, they will be in-house.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4E, Lakehead Racing Association Management Agreement Update. Administrator Rich.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilor DeWall, Councilor Johnson, and I attended a fair board meeting in which they invited the Lakehead Racing Association to discuss the management agreement. At the meeting, we learned, and the fair voted on paying the property taxes for the Speedway for time being until they're working on their 501c3. So it's a very generous offer. The taxes will get paid. We also, in the meantime, it was decided amongst the groups that we would continue working on the management agreement. Should the 501c3 process get delayed or hung up, we're continuing to help clear up the language in the management agreement so it's beneficial to both parties. Councilor DeWall, Johnson, did you want to add anything too?
Just so the council is aware, we kind of figured it would take about a month to go through a draft that could be entertained at this level. And then I would assume it may take a month or so thereafter for the various boards to approve it. But we were looking at, roughly 2 to 3 months, call it, to have this in place so that at least the clock starts ticking on a for sure plan of how to remediate the tax burden.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding the Lakehead Association agreement? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4F, Beautification Committee meeting. Administrator Rich.
Just very quickly, the Beautification Committee will be meeting on April 12th at 5 p.m. if you have any projects or thoughts that they should consider.
At 5, did you say?
Yep.
Any discussion regarding the beautification meeting coming up? Hearing none, we'll move on to 4G, legislative update. Administrator Rich.
And I'll ask Councilor Benson to help me along with this update, but the sales tax bill is moving along. some of the bills have been changed, ours hasn't. It's remained intact. Counselor Benson, did you want to add anything to that?
I think it was heard, a couple of week or 10 days ago, along with a list of other cities, and there was no real problems. It got passed along to the next committee and should be coming up for a floor vote shortly. I think some of the other legislative items, if I could deviate just briefly, on March 28th, the Property Tax Division voted to increase local government aid. So Proctor's aid's going up about $27,600, along with everybody else, and they're kind of tweaking that schedule, so it's nice to see that go up. St. Louis County is going to go up about $711,000, 5%. There's also a change in the Volunteer Fire Department Relief Association for benefits. That's going through the House as well. And then even though the final deadline for discussing bills is Friday, and the first deadline was 2-3 weeks ago, there were 18 new bills introduced today. Many of them had appropriations for monies for things like parks, regional parks, which we have, restoration of streams, which would be Kingsbury, sanitary sewers, and public buildings. So people are still moving through that process, even though it was supposed to end. And then the last little legislative item that affects us is 5 years ago, there was worry that municipal liquor stores would end up losing to grocery stores as far as liquor goes. And there was a bill that was introduced that's moving along and likely to get passed to do growlers. They call it the Surly bill, allowing people to increase the amount of beer, wine, vodka that they make. And part of the deal was to save municipal liquor stores for 5 more years. So we won't have that concern for that. So that pretty much completes the last 2 weeks as far as legislative items.
Thank you, Counselor and Administrator Rich. Any discussion regarding the legislative update?
Yep, I'll just,
I'm sorry.
I'll just piggyback off of Counselor Benson's comment about not being too late. And so we did propose to request, at the last hour, and that was the gap funding or the decrease in the Playground for Everybody project because we have a lack of funding for it. And then also including, since we were denied for the Safe Roads to School grant, including some trail and sidewalk work on our 2nd Street project, particularly trail. Those were submitted to Representative Murphy and Senator Bach, and the Gillette's Children's Specialty Health Care is very interested in our bill and will be contacting both of them to hopefully get that introduced for the Playground for Everybody.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding the legislative update? Hearing none. Thank you, Counselor Benson and Administrator Rich, for that. 4H, One Roof Community Housing Update. Administrator Rich.
Yep. So if you recall, some time ago, you approved the acquisition of a tax forfeited piece of property from St. Louis County. And the proposal was that One Roof Community Housing would be building an affordable single-family home on the lot. And happy to report that the deeds have been transferred. The deed was transferred to the City of Proctor, and the City of Proctor is transferring the deed to One Roof, and they've actually started submitting they've gone out for bids, and they are submitting their house plans. So it should be under construction this summer. And it's important to note that this is not a land trust project. This is a project where the family will be purchasing the home and the land at fair market value for a new single-family home.
Thank you for that. Any discussion, Councilor Benson?
Where was it located again?
I'm sorry, 730 Fifth Street.
Very good, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on. Now bring us to 5A. We got some items under unfinished business to address tonight. So 5A will be the lowest responsible bidder, and we're going to combine that with 5F, the purchasing policy. It's kind of built into one policy. So Administrator Rich.
Thank you. You do have in your packet, yes, we can combine these two policies together. We did some research of what St. Louis County has for responsible bidders and contractors, and then revisited the league's information on statutory limits as far as purchasing and what's allowed and what isn't allowed at different levels. So this is recommendation. It is quite more intensive and extensive than our current purchasing policy, so definitely interested in your comments, suggestions, questions.
Thank you. I got one right off the bat. On the first page, 1 of 8, it says about midway down, it says the City of Proctor encourages its staff to consider local purchasing when all factors are relatively equal. Can we change consider to use? So it would read the City of Proctor encourages its staff to use local purchasing when all factors are relatively.
Okay, yep.
Thank you. Any other discussion regarding the purchasing policy slash lowest responsible bidder?
Just I believe we're talking about the same document, but when it goes through the level, like level 1, level 2, looks like we are changing pretty dramatically as far as department heads, what can they purchase up to without authorization from city administrator or council, and then what finance director and administrator can purchase without city council. I think it's just a little steep. I would like to see it more than what it is, keeping in mind that if you go under the emergency portion of this, we have that where if Administrator Rich boiler goes out or something major, there is an emergency clause built into this policy that allows her or the staff to get what needs to be done, and then it would come to us after. But I'd kind of like to see that around the $10,000 mark.
Currently, I believe that's what, $4,999 up to?
I thought it was 4,999. It could be 5, but I thought it was under 5.
Yeah, so I agree that does need to go up a little bit. But your recommendation would be 10?
Correct.
Council all right with those two changes so far? Administrator Rich, would 10 work? Or
Yeah, absolutely. I was just presenting to you what the statutes allow, and you can, use your discretion. Also, if there is just to point out, Councilor DeWall, yes, it is increasing department head approval from 1,000 to 2,500. And if you're comfortable with that, that is a major change.
So the only other question I would have would be, we have, the chiefs and all that. Until we finish our org chart, I guess I have questions around finance director duties. When we used to roll with Mr. Reuter, helped me out, second in command was a deputy.
Deputy city clerk.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, it depends on how we categorize that. So I don't know if we're putting the cart after the horse or before the horse right now, but I would more or less consider that a department head position right now under our current structure, meaning that if she would need to go out and spend above that, she would need to get your authorization. And I guess right now I would feel more comfortable with that until we change the org chart and make things a little more definitive as to who is actually doing what. And when, I guess what I'm saying is second in command.
Right, so essentially you're saying that if there's two people in this department that are being allowed to make purchases over 2,500 according to this, and there should only be one.
Under our current org chart
Yeah.
with
Yep.
some missing gaps, yeah.
I get what you're saying.
And it's, I mean, you carry a phone,
Yep,
so if something came up, she should be able to get a hold of you.
it's a good point.
But I just
So-
think for right now, that's,
Just to clear, what you're saying is move finance director up to level 1, and level 2 would just be city administrator,
until we,
until we fix that org chart.
correct.
Okay? Council in agreement with that? Does that work for you, Mr. Rich?
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Perfect.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You turn your mic more towards you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so Administrator Rich, were you looking at action on this tonight, or do we want to make those changes and come back with a resolution to adopt this policy, or how do you want to proceed with that?
I would actually like to come back.
With the
Yeah,
changes?
to let everyone sit on it for a while and come back.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes.
All right, is there any more discussion regarding the lowest responsible bidder / purchasing policy, 5A, 5F? Hearing none, we'll move on to 5B, government data practices. Administrator Rich.
Again, an item that has been on the unfinished business for quite some time, and was able to dig into a new policy. I wasn't able to find anything that replaces a policy. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, I just couldn't find it. But this is the latest update as suggested by the league.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding 5B, government data practices? Councilor Benson?
Thank you. And really, we don't need to adopt it till August 1st by state statute. And I didn't see any resolutions with, so I pulled out some of my old resolutions that I could pass along to incorporate it. And I did notice in the past, and I defer to the attorney on this one, in the past, the data practice policy, one was under City Hall and the other was under the police department.
Right.
So I didn't know if the laws, statutes have changed to incorporate both in one policy.
I have not looked into that. I will look into that.
Thank you.
Who's the responsible authority right there?
And just one further question, so I have a complete understanding. We would be putting a resolution alongside this Data Practices Act,
Just adopting the policies,
which
or
would,
policy, provided we only need one.
which would be meaning under resolution, it'd be good for a year, and then every year we'd look at it from that point forward? Okay.
And I think August, you said, Counselor?
August
You
1st.
need to approve a data
And-
practice every August.
Okay.
And it's just to ensure that the responsible parties are updated and current. And changing the policy to reflect any updated state statutes.
Thank you. Any other discussion regarding the government data practices? Hearing none, we'll move on to 5D, although I believe it's already been addressed, that capital budget request. I believe council agreed to just keep that under unfinished.
Yes,
Right.
correct.
All right. No other discussion under unfinished business. We'll move on to 6A, liquor license renewal. The Liquor Control Committee met right before this meeting, and their recommendation is renewing the liquor license for the Speedway for the 2022 racing season. They have received receipt of everything paid in full as of March 25th, 2022. So looking for a motion to approve the Speedway liquor license.
I will move.
Councilor Benson made the motion. Is there a second?
I would second with conversation.
Seconded by Counselor DeWall for discussion.
Do we need to change the date? Because it's actually a record now. I was trying to figure out how we could write a letter March 30th and approve it April 4th. Is there a problem with that?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's all I wanted to clarify.
Okay. I got what you're saying. I didn't even notice that, but yeah. Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Brings us to 6B, retirement and resignation notification. In your packet, you had a letter to Chief Helquist of the Proctor Fire Department by firefighter number 504, Troy R. DeWall, officially announcing his retirement effective April 10th of 2022. Looking for a motion to approve the resignation of firefighter DeWall.
So moved.
Counselor Reuter made the motion. Is there a second? I'll second. Oh, go ahead, Counselor Benson.
I was going to say I will second with grateful appreciation for 22 years of service and continuing on with service to the community on this council.
Thank you, Counselor. You heard the motion and the second. Any discussion? I would just like to thank Troy for his long tenure on the fire department. It's a lot of training and hard work, so thank you for that. Any other discussion?
I thought in small print on his contract it said until he dies, that he's on,
I wouldn't wish that upon anyone.
but this was a
He'll be
special,
there in spirit.
Yeah,
this
that's right.
this was a special contract. No, thank you, Troy, for everything you've done.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Does, do you need to abstain from that? Okay.
Yeah, well,
Sounds
you're not getting anything extra. You're not financially benefiting from it. Microphone, please. It's right here, it's on.
Yeah.
In the minutes reflect Counselor DeWall abstains from the vote. Thank you. Again, thank you, Troy. There's also another letter under 6B from Andrew Leibel to Chief Helquist. Andy's formal notice of resignation from the Proctor Volunteer Fire Department. He wants his last date to be March 24th, 2022, when he returned all of his equipment. Looking for a motion to approve the resignation.
So move.
Counselor Johnson made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor DeWall. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. That'll bring us to 7A, land negotiations. Looking for a motion to go into closed session per Minnesota State Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3.
So moved.
Counselor DeWall made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Reuter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. right, we'll resume our regular city council meeting. I'll make a motion to direct Administrator Rich to draft an agreement and a letter to, per discussion in the closed meeting.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Counselor Reuter. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to members' concerns. Counselor Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have two quick ones. I see we got this concerning the League of Minnesota Cities annual conference going to be held in Duluth. Great opportunity to attend, save the city on hopefully per diems and travel rooms. So it's a lot of fun and great opportunity to hear what others have to say. And then one thing I was going to mention under legislative, but I thought I would save it to the end, is there was a local government bill that was passed in the House enthusiastically on Memorial Day and the amount of money cities could spend. And it's been $300 since 1909. And they've now raised it to 10,000. But just kind of doing the math, if you look on a per capita basis up to 75,000, it would only cost the city maybe 4,000, though I do not anticipate at all that the Memorial Day folks or the American Legion will be asking for any money, and they're very grateful for the $300 the city has put aside for them. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor Benson. Counselor DeWall.
Proctor about the Proctor Fire Department Community and Media Open House Day scheduled Wednesday, May 11th, 2022. We'll be at the Proctor Fire Hall. It starts at 5:30, ends at 7:30. So all those who have younger individuals that want to see some new equipment and see how it operates, I would encourage everyone to participate. Hopefully weather will be good.
I did inform Chief Helquist and Administrator Rich that I will not be able to make it that day due to a 6 o'clock meeting we have second Wednesday of the month. But I'm sure it'll be a good time.
And I will not be able to attend as well because I got a League of Minnesota Cities thing I have to be at
Thank you.
in Pittsburgh.
Thank you, Counselor. Was that everything? Yes. Thank you. Counselor Johnson.
Just want to wish everybody a happy Easter before our next meeting, which is afterwards, so that's it.
Thank you. Counselor Reuter.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing. Thank you. Again, Counselor Johnson, you stole mine, but I'm going to wish everybody a happy Easter as well. So have fun with the families and be safe. Attorney Bray. Nothing for you. Administrator Rich, anything to add? No. All right. With that being said, we'll entertain a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $88,019.22. Motion by Counselor DeWall. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Reuter. Any further discussion?
Just one item,
Counselor DeWall.
there's no check number, but it's under cleaning services, cleaning supplies.
Under 50 account number. Is that for a month or is that for a couple of months?
That is for a month, but I did talk to Finance Director Brunfeld. She reminded that, so the cleanings, it is a longer month, so they had more days that they came. We're still on a trial basis with them, and we are working on a contract.
Because I would encourage, if that's what we're going to pay when we're not renting to full capacity, that's a little rich, especially when we're buying all the supplies and bags and some equipment, I would assume. So I would encourage, I'll be anticipating when that comes on before the council for an agreement, put it that way, because it's hard to budget a no number.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion regarding the bills? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Counselor DeWall made motion to adjourn. Is there a second? I will second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. Thank you.